You know what my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card from the GX era is? Go on, ask me. But you already know from the title, of course. Now, I was a huge fan of the GX anime as it was airing. Yes, I know it's a 4Kids dub. It wasn't like the best possible, but I was like 7 or 8. Guys, give me a break. But the one card I thought was like the coolest thing when I was a kid was Super Polymerization. This is a playset of Super Polymerization I bought yesterday, as of the day I'm filming this. Funny enough, I've never owned a single Super Polymerization, I don't think ever, despite me being a huge GX fan back in the day. Somehow I just never pulled the card in any of the Phantom Darkness packs I got. I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for all these years, I've just never got copies of them, so I'm finally rectifying that a little bit. Now, a lot of the times with Yu-Gi-Oh animes, they'll hype up specific cards even if their real-world TCG counterparts don't really stack up compared to the hype they get in the anime. Oh, nails! But Super Poly stands out to me because as a kid, I never felt like hyper infatuated with just spell cards or trap cards in particular, right? That storyline pivotal spell cards and trap cards weren't all that common watching through the Yu-Gi-Oh animes, but Super Polymerization was really the first time that something that wasn't a monster just caught my attention and just caught my imagination. Watching the show, Super Poly felt like the most busted, crazy, insane card ever because Yu-Gi-Oh GX was all about fusions and stuff, and being able to take monsters from your opponent's side of the field and create new monsters just sounded crazy to me. Like, oh wow, he can just fuse and just not only like have the monster be taken away from the opponent, but also create something new to end the game, because a lot of the way these anime duels are written, usually it's like it comes down to one monster versus one monster, and ending with the Super Poly would basically give you the game in the vast majority of anime scenarios. And the craziest thing is that the anime version of the card is not that much weaker than the actual card game version. I believe the only stipulation in the anime version is that you have to use fusion material from your side of the field, but other than that, it's almost basically the same card between that and the actual TCG. I don't know if you guys know this, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime-specific cards, specifically from the GX era, have this really bad problem of translating anime effects directly into the card game. These cards have like hyper-specific usage, right? That because they're being written by script writers, that a lot of these cards just don't have effects that really work in an actual real-life card game where randomness is much more apparent. So you have cards like the Cyberdarks or Rainbow Dragon, or God knows how many other archetypes I can name from GX specifically, that were really, really hyped up in the anime, but when it came to their actual TCG playability, they were god-awful. And Super Polymerization kind of somehow manages to escape this somehow, that it's not like hyper broken in the way anime cards can be sometimes, but it's also not extremely weak. It being translated literally from the anime into the card game, and I would argue even got buffed in the card game a little bit, didn't really seem to hurt it. But I mean, in terms of the actual card game though, nobody actually uses it the way Jaden does in the show, that nobody uses it to create some crazy new monster with opponent's material or anything like that. God, no. They basically just use it as like fancy removal. It's like super fancy kaijus, basically, that instead of tributing an opponent's monster as a way to get over it with hyper immune BS, that instead you're just gonna be fusing a bunch of monsters from your opponent's side of the field into whatever random thing you have in your extra deck, specifically sided out for that. And I guess the weirdest thing about all this is that Super Poly did not see a lot of serious competitive play for a good while after it came out, which is kind of surprising to me. Child me could be like, wow, this is crazy and insane. Like, I recognized how insane it was. But I guess people who played the actual card game didn't. Seems a little weird. I mean, granted, fusion monsters were very different back then, that instead of having semi-stringent requirements for creating these monsters, monsters of a certain attribute, or monsters of a certain level, or maybe monsters of a certain extra deck summoning mechanic or something. They were specific archetype names, or maybe even specific monster names specifically. I can kind of get why people didn't think this card was that powerful, but it's not that hard to imagine, oh, maybe if they loosen up the restrictions on how you're able to summon these things, these cards would actually be stupid good. I guess nobody just thought of that at the time. So anyways, guys, that's it for the video.